Welcome to the Nation of History channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more videos like this one. The scene recorded on November 24, 1963, shows Lee Harvey Oswald being escorted through the halls of the Dallas Police Department. Broadcast on television, the episode led to changes in public security routines after Jack Ruby crossed the protective line, abruptly changing the course of the case. In Lakehurst, New Jersey, on May 6, 1937, a survivor is carried to an ambulance after the Hindenburg airship accident in the field. The craft was lost during arrival, and the episode marked the end of the era of giant airships, with the record drawing worldwide attention. East German workers installed barbed wire fences on August 14, 1961, shortly after the crossing was shut in Berlin. Soldiers supervised the placement of concrete posts to solidify territorial separation. Ruins in the background reinforce the area's atmosphere of surveillance. The record shows the head of a Joseph Stalin statue fallen in the streets of Budapest, one of the biggest symbols of the Hungarian Revolution that began on October 23, 1956. People move among streetcar tracks as the monumental bronze bears graffiti and damage from the monument's toppling. Officer Felix Rodriguez appears alongside Bolivian soldiers and Che Guevara in custody in La Higuera. The record, captured on October 9, 1967, documents a decisive moment in that historical episode. The image suggests strategic cooperation between outside agents and the local army. Brothers Michel and Edmund Navratil appear in a portrait dated 1912 after surviving the Titanic sinking. Known as the ship's orphans, the boys were rescued without their direct guardians. The photograph documents the children's situation before their mother officially identified them. Workers at an American shipyard during World War II operate welding equipment. One man wears a handwritten sign pinned to his back to indicate Chinese nationality. The practice aimed to prevent hostility aimed at immigrants of Japanese origin in 1941. Wax mannequins appear melted in an American store window as a result of a severe heat wave that hit the country in 1929. Extreme temperatures affected multiple states that summer, warping climate-sensitive objects. The figure's clothing reflects the style and popular sports of the time. 3 Welsh coal miners appear with faces covered in soot after an exhausting day in the mines of Wales. Photographer W. Eugene Smith's record captures harsh working reality and worker housing in the background, reflecting the industry's importance to the British economy. Rural workers take a meal break in Clarksdale, Mississippi in 1937. Recorded by Dorothea Lange, the scene exposes fragile housing in farming areas, where wooden structures sheltered families living under sharecropping, showing the harsh economic conditions that shape daily life in the southern United States. King Cetshwayo Kampande led the Zulu nation through one of the most challenging periods of the 19th century. On January 22, 1879, his forces achieved a major victory at the Battle of Isandlwana, defeating British troops in a clash that changed the geopolitics of southern Africa. French tightrope walker Philippe Petit carried out a clandestine crossing on a steel cable stretched between the twin towers of the World Trade Center on August 7, 1974. The performance, more than about 1,312 feet above New York, lasted about 40 minutes and required years of technical planning. A sergeant from the 101st Airborne Division of the United States receives a gesture of affection from a child on French soil. The record took place on February 14, 1945, during the final phase of the global conflict in Europe. A dog and soldiers in the background reinforce the everyday life of Allied troops. Little Warren Bernard runs toward his father, soldier Jack Bernard, as the troops of the British Columbia Regiment march through the streets of New Westminster. Claude P. Detloff's photograph, taken on October 1, 1940, became a symbol of the human and family impact of World War II in Canada. An American soldier and a young Japanese woman share a Hershey's chocolate on a lawn during the occupation of Japan in 1946. The scene shows military and civilian clothing of the time, with cigarettes and wrappers on the ground, reflecting complex cultural interaction in the immediate post-war period. Vast rows of F-4U Corsair and F-6F Hellcat aircraft fill a hangar in the United States in 1944. These newly built planes awaited shipment to operations in the Pacific. The industrial scale of war production highlights the logistical effort required during that conflict. After fighting ended in 1945, the Army Airfield in Kingman, Arizona, became one of the largest storage sites for surplus aircraft. Thousands of B-17 Flying Fortress bombers were lined up in the desert, waiting to be taken apart so valuable metals and useful components could be recovered. Scientists examined the chimpanzee ham during acceleration tests in 1960. The primate is restrained in a special chair on metal rails, monitored by technicians in white outfits before his suborbital flight. These experiments were key to the safety of later Mercury project missions. In May 1970, Valentina Tereshkova, the Soviet space pioneer, presented a commemorative badge to Neil Armstrong during the American astronaut's visit to the Soviet Union. The meeting took place with Yuri Gagarin watching from a portrait in the background, symbolizing scientific diplomacy. Harry Truman and Dwight Eisenhower appear in a convertible during the presidential inauguration ceremony on January 20, 1953. The moment marked a transfer of power in the United States after the end of the Korean War. In the back seat, the leaders waved to the crowd in one of the most solemn scenes in democratic politics. On the White House lawn in 1985, Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher laugh as the dog Lucky pulls the leash and runs ahead. The snapshot captures a light moment between diplomatic duties with spontaneous smiles in full daylight. A human pause in a setting of power before returning to protocol. Three global music icons share a candid backstage record at the Palladium Theater in New York. The image captures Bob Marley, Mick Jagger, and Peter Tosh during the Rolling Stones tour on June 19, 1978. The meeting symbolizes the cultural blend between Jamaican reggae and British rock. Robin Williams appears in a candid photo early in his career in the 1970s in the United States. The actor holds what looks like a script while wearing a two-tone casual outfit. The record captures the lively energy that made him famous on stand-up comedy stages. Alfred Hitchcock poses in a theatrical composition in front of the iconic Bates House facade during production of the feature film Psycho. The record, captured in 1960, highlights the British director beside a model, emphasizing the Victorian Gothic architecture that became a worldwide symbol of suspense. Wearing athletic clothing on a lit court, Fidel Castro takes part in a basketball game in the mid-1960s. The Cuban leader is shown jumping for a shot as other players watch the play. The setting reflects state encouragement of athletic activity on the island. A huge billboard in Times Square displays the iconic peace message by John Lennon and Yoko Ono in 1969. The sign says the war is over if people want it, part of a global campaign that used city spaces to promote social activism and world peace. Protesters gather on a public street in the summer of 1969 for a symbolic action in San Francisco. A woman holds an intimate clothing item in front of a mostly male, smiling crowd. The event occurred on August 1, 1969, and reflects the cultural tensions of that decade. Everyday life in Kabul showed intense urban growth and influence from global fashion in 1979. Women walked the streets in skirts and boots, reflecting the Afghan capital's social openness before drastic political changes reshaped clothing and public life. American sailors line up with strict military discipline at the Great Lakes Naval Training Station in 1940. Through Bernard Hoffman's lens for Life magazine, recruits wait while their belongings are inspected on the ground, revealing the pre-war training routine. The practice of the camera pigeon, devised by Julius Neubronner, enabled pioneering aerial records before modern aviation rose. In 1908, the inventor patented a system of tiny cameras attached to the birds' chests, capturing automatic images in flight along specific routes. A German airship flies over the monumental pyramids of Giza as local observers watch the huge craft pass across the Egyptian sky. The 1931 record captures the contrast between 20th century modern engineering and the ancient stone structures dominating the desert landscape. The iconic copper face of the Statue of Liberty appears propped on wooden scaffolding shortly after arriving in the United States. In 1884, the monument was completed in France and then taken apart for the Atlantic crossing. The record from June 17, 1885, details the start of assembly. The Los Angeles landscape featured the original sign installed on July 13, 1923, to promote a new real estate development in the hills. Vehicles of the era travel on winding dirt roads, while the wood and metal structure reading Hollywoodland dominates the local skyline. Thousands of people walk on the suspended roadway during the opening of the Golden Gate Bridge on May 27, 1937. Biplanes perform aerobatic maneuvers between the steel towers, celebrating completion of the megastructure in San Francisco. The event marked the region's definitive coastal connection. An aerial view reveals the grandeur of Hoover Dam, built on the Colorado River in the 1930s. The arched concrete structure stands as a landmark of American civil engineering during the Great Depression, linking Nevada and Arizona for power supply. The impressive atrium of the former Public Library of Cincinnati and Hamilton County displays cast-iron architecture around 1874. 5 levels of book-filled shelves are reached by spiral staircases, while readers sit at tables under the light of large gas lanterns. The Greek capital looked almost rural in 1869, with modest buildings spread along the base of the Acropolis. The imposing Parthenon dominates the rocky skyline, showing centuries of structural change. In the foreground, Hadrian's Arch marks the transition between the ancient city and Roman expansion, while dirt paths connect historic neighborhoods around the site. Couples dance under the arched structure of a French bridge during the 1950s. The banks of the Seine River served as a social refuge for Paris youth seeking outdoor leisure amid historic architecture. Small moored boats and period clothing complete the capital's atmosphere. The exotic vehicle known as the Monotrace travels near the Champ de Mars in 1922. This 2-wheeled motorcycle with an open cabin shows a design meant to combine car comfort with motorcycle agility. In the background, the base of the Eiffel Tower completes the Paris city scene. The exotic vehicle known as the Dinosphere was an invention patented by John Archibald Purvis in the United Kingdom in 1930. This giant monowheel used a circular metal lattice frame to enclose passengers as it moved, aiming for a futuristic transportation alternative. A bold architectural plan dated 1936 aimed to change tourism in Paris by allowing vehicles to reach the second level of the Eiffel Tower. The proposal involved building external spiral ramps so cars could drive up the structure, reflecting fascination with car-centered modernity. Tadzio Nuvolari is shown at the wheel of his Alfa Romeo in 1931, highlighting the era's racing car engineering. The vehicle has thin tires and a prominent front grille, typical of European circuits. The industrial background reinforces the garage setting. Chess player Bobby Fischer walks among admirers during the historic World Chess Championship in Iceland. The match against Boris Spassky on July 11, 1972, symbolized Cold War tension over the chessboard. Formal clothing and local security reinforced the event's impact in Reykjavik. Customers fill the tables of a restaurant in Denver in 1966. The space was part of the famous Woolworth's department stores, known for combining shopping and dining. Waitresses in light uniforms move between counters and merchandise shelves, showing everyday North American life. The United Airlines lobby at Los Angeles International Airport shows the corporate look of 1985 with reddish carpets and sturdy service counters. Electronic boards at gates 73A and 73B list flight 1270, reinforcing airline logistics and visual identity of that decade. Women gathered in Sarasota, Florida, take part in a Tupperware demonstration event in 1958. The host presents plastic containers that were innovative for the time while guests watch from a patio. The social clothing and furniture reflect everyday domestic life in the United States. Supermarket aisles in 1973 demanded specific hand skills for visual communication of deals. A worker uses brushes and paint to make price signs with artistic lettering, highlighting the price of 29 cents in large characters to attract customers. Elderly women share glasses of sherry inside a pub in the Gorbals district of Glasgow. Captured on May 15, 1968, the record details the clothing and social life of Scotland's working class in that decade. The interior architecture reflects local customs of the time. Men's swim outfits and long dresses with parasols shaped the social scene at Brighton Beach in the early 1900s. A lifeguard stands out in his official uniform of the time, showing the safety standards and beach clothing common in that period of the 20th century. A landcraft with sails and wheels moves along the beach in 1900, carrying 4 women dressed in typical Victorian-era clothing. The mechanism uses wind power for movement in coastal settings, reflecting the century's recreational experiments. Men and children test the stability of a portable extendable bridge invented by El Deth in the Netherlands in 1926. The scissor-style metal structure spans a waterway while the group poses in typical clothing of the time. The technical innovation aimed to improve mobility in rural areas. A press worker handles metal blocks to build the physical layout of the New York Times sports pages. In 1942, this printing method required absolute hands-on precision to arrange text columns and photo plates before large-scale printing on paper. Amid a complex tangle of cables and electromechanical selectors, a worker operates while seated on a moving platform at the East 30th Street Exchange in New York in 1938. The year demanded constant hands-on maintenance to keep city communication running, showing the enormous scale of the era's telephone infrastructure. In 1926, boarding a Fokker-Grulich FII aircraft of the German airline Lufthansa showcased the luxury of early commercial air travel. An employee helps a passenger in elegant clothing climb the narrow cabin steps, revealing the contrast between mechanical ruggedness and refinement. A Coca-Cola vending machine made of red metal shows a price of 6 cents per bottle during the 1950s. The machine keeps wear marks and the era's classic design, serving as a record of consumer culture and North American economic stability. Brothers Dick and Mac opened the first McDonald's in San Bernardino, California in 1948. The place featured a sign advertising hamburgers for 15 cents, establishing a fast service system that would reshape the food industry and consumer habits. Writer Jack London is shown in his outdoor work setting in California during the 1910s. Seated at an improvised table with papers and manuscripts, the author reflects the link between his writing and the lush nature surrounding his home in the Valley of the Moon. Jane Mansfield poses in front of a mirror in a photo session in the United States in 1950. The image shows the actress in a hooded wool outfit, reflecting the casual fashion look of that decade. The documentary record highlights the shift in artistic advertising after the war. A young Marilyn Monroe works on improving her body technique in a rehearsal studio in the Hollywood area. In 1949, the future film star practiced choreographed movements under instructor supervision to strengthen her screen presence. Marilyn Monroe greets a young admirer at the entrance of her trailer during filming of the production The 7-Year Itch in 1955. The record captures a casual behind-the-scenes interaction on a movie set, where typical 1950s clothing and hairstyles define the cultural atmosphere. Sophia Loren stands out during her appearance at the Cannes Film Festival in 1955. The Italian actress wears an ornate evening gown while adjusting a light stole over her shoulders. The record captured in May 1955 reflects aesthetic standards and European cinema's international reach. Actor Kirk Douglas interacts with beachgoers during the Venice Film Festival in the 1950s. The photograph shows the American star at the Venice Lido, wearing typical swimwear of the era while signing the skin of an admirer. The event drew major Hollywood names to Italy. Actress Jane Mansfield and bodybuilder Mickey Hargitay appear in a leisure moment aboard a wooden boat in the early 1960s. The couple embodies the era's glamour with typical swimwear and a seaside setting that reinforces the look of the celebrity golden age. Kiki Hawkinson celebrates her victory in the first Miss World contest in 1951. The event took place in London and made beauty pageant history by spotlighting the Swedish representative, among other contestants, posing in swimwear, setting new global standards of appearance. The unusual meeting between businessman Colonel Sanders and musician Alice Cooper happened in 1969, bringing together distinct icons of United States culture. The fast food founder's formal white outfit contrasts with Cooper's casual style, highlighting the era's social changes. The silhouette of Tokyo Tower dominates the Japanese skyline during a period of intense urban rebuilding. The 1960 record reveals the contrast between the metal structure inspired by the Eiffel Tower and low traditional housing. That year, the capital still lacked the tall skyscrapers that would define its modern look in later decades. Clothing adorned with fine embroidery and lavish jewelry defines the outfit of this member of the Qajar dynasty in the mid-1890s. The context predates the Persian Constitutional Revolution, reflecting Tehran elite style during a time of political transition and strong local tradition. A mail carrier walks smiling through Chicago snow during the harsh winter of 1929. He carries side bags packed with parcels, cards, and stacked deliveries, showing the huge volume of postal work during the Christmas season. The official uniform and cap reinforce the discipline of public service. French automotive engineering of the mid-century showed strong versatility through iconic models. In 1950, the Citroën Traction Avant appeared fitted with a roof tent supported by metal ladders, reflecting the growth of camping tourism and freedom on the road. Famous sharpshooter Annie Oakley gives a demonstration of technical accuracy in 1899. Using a small hand mirror to guide her aim, she fires at targets positioned behind her. Period clothing and a steady stance highlight her unique skill in Old West exhibitions. Margaret and Mary Gibb were sisters joined at the lower back who became well known in North American entertainment. In the 1940s, a record of Margaret with her fiancé shows how their private lives unfolded under constant public attention and media curiosity. Young Christopher Robin Milne is shown holding his original teddy bear in a photograph dated 1927. The toy became the central inspiration for the famous Winnie the Pooh children's stories written by his father. The wool clothing and haircut clearly show British fashion of the time. Walter Botts poses in 1970 wearing the iconic star-covered hat that made him the model for a United States recruitment poster. Standing in front of James Montgomery Flagg's original artwork, he recreates the commanding gesture that became a symbol of American patriotism during the 20th century. A photograph captured by Christer Stromholm in 1959 portrays everyday life in a bohemian area of Palma de Mallorca. The black and white framing highlights social interaction and the era's city architecture in the Balearic Islands. The work exemplifies documentary style focused on streets and European urban characters. The Milan city scene reveals a peculiar transportation option in front of the imposing Duomo. A uniformed driver operates a motorized rickshaw, seating passengers in a compact, streamlined cabin. The vehicle reflects mobility adaptations in Italy during the 1930s. Technology innovation in the 1960s allowed passengers to enjoy mobile entertainment in private vehicles. In 1963, Sony introduced the portable micro-television, a compact hand-operated device that showed sharp black and white images for its time. The device signaled a deep shift in personal media use, anticipating portability that would later become standard, linking Japanese industrial design to the growing global market for leisure electronics. If you enjoyed this video and want to support the channel, please use the Super Thanks tool below. Your contribution helps us keep bringing you amazing historical content. Thank you so much for your support, and see you in the next video.